Now then, family ammo, welcome back to another video. This will be the second video on the boxing venues. So the second one on my list will be Cardiff, an ice rink. It was an ice rink or ice arena in Cardiff, Wales. Now, it weren't the worst place I've ever boxed, far from it, and it held a few thousand seats, but it was a world title. It was my first world title shot against Guilherme Aragondo, and to end up in an ice rink in Cardiff when I'm English and he's Cuban fighting out of America, it was underwhelming to say the least. I was deflated by the end of it because of the circumstances I'm about to talk about, but going into it I was very optimistic, and it was something that I've been working towards for years and years and years, fighting for a world title. WBA, the super bantamweight, super WBA world title. I know, yeah. But anyway, and it was against a fella called Guilherme Aragondo. I think he won the Olympics a few times or world titles as an amateur, and he was a brilliant. He was probably one of the best to do it as a professional too, and definitely as an amateur. He was a good fighter, but he was somebody I always said to myself, I'm going to fight him one day, I'm going to beat him, because my coach used to send us home with videos of him fighting, and when my coach used to send us home with footage of fighting him, I used to say, instead of watching him, I'm going to fight him. So that was just my mentality back in the day, so I always visualised fighting him, and it come about, and I was supposed to fight him a few months earlier in Liverpool, and that would have been great, because he got visa issues, and I didn't find out I went fighting Aragondo until like, I think it was 3 days before the fight. People were telling me that he can't make it, and I was just in denial. There was no way I weren't having it. He was coming, and that was that, and it never it never happened. I fought someone else and I won on that bill. Frank Warren put me on. He gave me a good payday against the fella who was well below the wages that he gave me. So he saved, I think he used me as well to save the show. Gave me a good payday considering who I was fighting. I ended up stopping the fella, I think it was something like 7 rounds. And we had the fight, we scheduled a few months later. It was Frank Warren. It was a Frank Warren show, and I was supposed to fight on this date against a fella called Abigail Medina for the EBU European title, super bantamweight. And when he asked me, do you want to fight Aragondo, instead, you're going to have to pull out of this fight against Medina. Are you willing to do it? And it hurt me pride a little bit to pull out against Medina, but I knew I was taking a well harder fight against Aragondo, and I did have a hand injury at the time. A lot of fighters know when you're going through camp, you don't always come to a camp and you say I feel the best you've ever felt, because you do. You're in a great position, you're fit, you know more than you've ever known, you're more experienced than you've ever been experienced before, because of all your accumulated experiences, and you are in the best place you've ever been. But most of the time you're carrying an injury or a niggle or something like that. I had a bone, I think the bone broken in my hand, and I could have done with a few more weeks against Medina, and this fight against Aragondo would have been put back a few more weeks, I think. So it was perfect for me, but I did have to pull out against the Medina fight. Ego got involved a little bit and I didn't pull out, so anyway I was happy to put the fight back. Cardiff Ice Arena. Terry Flanagan was also topping the bill. Steve Bunce and Barry Jones used to do a show on Box Nation. I can't remember what the show was called, but it was brilliant. I remember going in there, going down to London with my alpha to promote the fight, getting to the studio in London, and Barry Jones and Bunty are there, and did really good at the job. Barry would make you feel comfortable by saying, used to have an iPad, or was it a laptop or an iPad or something in front of them, as if they were reading notes. And I remember Barry putting something disgusting on the iPad and I'm sitting there supposed to be filming this show, and Barry's put this disgusting porn on the tip. Porn, yeah, bad porn, like disgusting porn, because Barry's got a really sick sense of humour. Barry's like That must have been his way of like amusing himself. You can tell he's got that dark sense of humour. And I'm sitting there talking to Bunty and Barry, thinking this is supposed to be like a professional gig, this, and it is. But Barry's just round the bend, and I always remember that, because I thought it must have just crashed the car thinking about that porn. So just thinking about the way that he done it, he must have put me at ease, you know. So it was a good little day, and good little way of promoting the bill and all that. And but I do remember how nobody gave me a chance, and rightly so. Looking back, I was young, I was naive, I was impatient, and so was my team, to be honest. But I remember how nobody gave me a chance, and the mentality of it didn't sit well with me, because whether I've got a chance or not, it's not for other people to say. And it was a weak mentality, and I could see the mentality in other people's eyes when he was telling me about how much of an underdog I was, and how I could tell that they wouldn't take a fight like that. Bear in mind, at the time, there was Carl Frampton and Scott Quigg, who were world champions, and he wouldn't go nowhere near him. Nobody would take him, and I thought, I'll skip the queue and I'll take my chance, and I'll win. But I remember being on the show, and he made a point of how much of an underdog I was. Might have been Randy Turpin against Ray Robinson. They were comparing it to that if I did get the win and stuff like that, and I didn't like the mentality of it. It upset me, to be honest. It made me very isolated, very isolated, because I didn't like the mentality of people. Nobody had this belief in me. That's my mentality. Whether I think you're going to win or lose, you can give fighters confidence by talking positive in these situations. So that was my experience. People talking negative to me. And I remember doing a phone call on the way back from the studios with Gareth A. Davies, and Gareth A. Davies was like, he sounded a bit like he was in awe. It was on, I think it might have been Talk Sports or something, and he was in awe of Rigondo by the way he was talking about him and stuff like that, and I just didn't like it. It was the Rigondo show, and I weren't used to that, you know what I mean? I was used to people talking to me about me, because that's who they're talking to, but it weren't about that. It was about him, as if I was a spare piece, and I didn't like it anyway. And everyone was the same. I remember getting to Cardiff for the media day on a Wednesday before the fight, and I'm sitting there next to Terry Flanagan, and I'll never forget this. Terry Flanagan leans over to me as Rigondo was coming in, and Terry was the same, and Terry leans over to me and said, "Hey, do him, you know." And I like that. I love that about Terry. I like him. That's his mentality, you know what I mean? No matter who it is, fuck them. A few days later, we had the weigh-in, stayed out and all that. Very confident to stay out the weigh-in, and we get to the venue. I felt something different this time. In the warm-up, it was different. It was like, this is the moment, this is the one. World title, this is the one, you know. And everyone around it was acting a bit different as well, because it was a world title. And I also felt a bit of fear around people, which I didn't like. I didn't like the fear. I liked the strong mentality. Me and my felt like we were going to do it, you know what I mean? That was our mentality, but I felt like everyone else had other insights, and turned out to be right, but I still don't respect that. But anyway, yeah, first round, hit me with a shot over the top, and it flashed me a little bit. When I say flash me, it didn't like, just like momentarily, just like sometimes you get hit, your fingers go numb, or your toes are going numb, something like that. You know you've been hit, but you're not like discombobulated, your senses aren't scrambled. For the fact that you feel your fingers numb and your toes numb, you're not that gone. It's when you can't feel fuck all, and you're experiencing something weird, like a room spinning, or like mad sounds, or different colours. That can happen. But when your fingers are numb and stuff like that, well, you take a little step back, let the body just feel normal again, or take a little step forward and you'll take a step back. So he hit me with the same shot that he broke my jaw with. The second round, the same shot, big overhand, left over the top, the same one he caught me with. And what happened is my jaw just broke off. That way I turned my head, to ride the shot because I knew what was coming, the same shot as the first one, and he hit me behind the jawbone, and it broke off here. Got a scar somewhere there and there. It broke in 2 places and it was dangling, and I remember thinking, wow, this is mad. This, so I thought, I'll suck me chin up so he doesn't know it's dangling down. And when I went to suck my mouth up, there was no suction to close my mouth, and that was an odd experience, because we can shut our lips all the time when we want. We can open our mouth up and down, but when your jaw's hanging off, broke, it's just dangling. It's like it's not attached to, well, it's not attached to your face. You know it's dangling inside your skin. That's where your jaw is. It's off your face, but it's still inside your skin. And he hit me with another jab after it, and it pushed me chin into my neck where it weren't attached. I remember coming back out myself and trying to land, and feeling there's elusiveness. He was very elusive. The rest of that round, I thought, I need a big shot here, and I need to catch him clean. And I never. He was so elusive. So when I went back to the corner, my coach said to me, "Is your jaw all right there?" And I couldn't speak back, you know what I mean? I probably mumbled, probably tried to talk, but like, my jaw's hanging off, so I couldn't really speak. And he said, "I'm going to pull a fight," and he did. The referee, Howard Foster, was over his shoulder, and he was also on the look as well. There must have been blood coming out of it, I don't know, or it must have been by the way it was dangling. And he pulled the fight. Devastating. You know, you feel like a letdown, and it was what it was. It was heartbreaking for me. I just had my little fella, my second boy, 3 weeks before this world title fight as well, and in my head I was going home with a world title. Went home with a British title to my little girl 3 weeks after she was born. Now I'm going home with a world title 3 weeks after my little fella's born, my second lad. And it didn't work out that way. When I went back to the change room, my outfielder asked me, he said, "Is it broke, lad? Is it bad?" And I grabbed it and put my finger in my mouth under my chin, and just moved it, and look, it's fucked. And and then the doctor comes over. The doctor said, "Let's have a look at you." The doctor was a lovely fella. I didn't get his name. It might have been, I'm sure his name was Wilson, but he worked in this department in the Cardiff hospital that I needed. Luckily, he was the doctor who was working the show that night, and he put me right through to go right in and get an operation that night. Because if you go right back home, which you probably would have, you have to wait and all that, and then you have to go to the hospital and all that. But luckily for this fella, he was a lovely fella, this doctor, and but he said to me, "You're not going to fight." I said something like, "How long am I going to fight for?" And he said, "You're not going to fight again." And it was like, the seconds felt like minutes, and I said, "What's he saying? I'm not going to fight again?" And it made me a bit angry, because I thought, who are you talking to? You're not telling me when I'm going to fight. But anyway, 1, 2, 3 seconds later, he went, for a good few months. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he just said that and then he changed his mind when he seen my face. I don't know, actually. But anyway, you expect to go to a thing in an ambulance, don't you, or something like that, because the doctors sorted it out for you to go to the hospital. Ambulance, no. I phoned you a taxi. Coming out of the arena to go get the taxi to go to the hospital, my arm fella's already booked a trip. He had a trip booked already, paid for, to go to Canada that night. I remember my arm fella's face. It weren't my pain, it didn't bother me at all. I wanted my arm fella to go anyway. He already was going. It was a good experience for him. But I remember his face when he had to go. I remember it broke my heart watching him being heartbroken, having to go on this thing that he's already committed to in Canada. And yeah, that hurt me. That really hurt me. And it weren't the fact that he was going that hurt me, because that was the only consolation that was good about it. But it was the fact that I seen in his eyes the heartbreak that he had to go and leave his son, and that hurt me. That really hurt me. And then I get to the taxi to the hospital, get outside the hospital with my coaches, and then taxi driver goes, you haven't paid. That weren't the point, it went about the money. It hurt me this a bit. Because an hour ago, you're fighting live on the telly, world title fight. Now, the taxi driver's asking you for money for this taxi to the hospital. It did hurt me, but that's boxing and I learned a lesson. Goes in for the operation that night. I woke up out of the operation. Twice I've been put under anaesthetic for operations. One was a nose job.
Believe it or not.
This before I got broke again. I'll tell you that story another time. And one was this one. And I woke up shadowboxing twice. 2 times that I've been under anaesthetic, I've woke up shadowboxing. I don't know why. Maybe it's the first thing that comes to my mind when I wake up, which is boxing. But yeah, twice I woke up shadowboxing and thought, whoa, where are you here? Remember the second time? Shadowboxing, and I remember and thinking, there's a blanket over, why is there a blanket over my hands? And then I looked at the hand and realised, oh yeah, you just did an operation, and then went back and kept going home. Family, waiting for the world title, your kids, and you've told them, you promised them and all that, and like, it just doesn't happen, and it's painful. Got a broken jaw, you can't train if you want to train, you got to wait a few weeks and all that. Trying to, yeah, painful situation. So yeah, that weren't the best experience, because just all the factors around. I wish for a little bit more for the world title fight and all that, the venue and stuff like that. Weren't the best wages as it was. Didn't give me tickets in on time. Got deducted £10,000 for not giving me tickets in on time. These are the things that people don't understand. That wage at the time was only a £50,000 fight to fight Rigondeaux, by the way, and £10,000 deducted because it didn't give me tickets in on time. So £40,000, you're coming away with 20 grand after fighting for a world title against Rigondeaux, you know what I mean? It's a brave move when I look back, but these are all experiences that I wouldn't change, and experiences that I'm proud that I had the ball to take, you know what I mean? And that was when I didn't understand about the finances of boxing. I thought it was all about the glory, you know what I mean? I've learned a lot since then, so I don't change it. These are lessons I had to learn. So yeah, that was a overall experience. It was an eye-opener. I wouldn't say it was a good one, I would say it was an eye-opener on the world of boxing. So yeah, that was my experience fighting for a world title against Rigondeaux in Cardiff Ice Arena.